The birth of Hanthorn. The sky was dark with only a few stars shining through the clouds. The fire from his newly lit campfire crackled eagerly. Even though the wood was damp from the evening dew, he had managed to get a good fire going. He loved the sound of the creaking trees and the occasional moan from an owl and other sounds from the creatures of the night. Some people would be scared of being in the forest at night time, but not him. For him it felt safe, far away from other people. Patiently he was waiting for the rabbit he had recently shot to finish roasting over the campfire. It was impaled on an improvised spear where it was seething over the flames that hungrily licked the rabbit. The smell from the roasted meat teased his senses. He hadn't eaten all day, and the smell was almost intoxicating. He stared into the flames and let his mind wander. He had left his hometown of Garanthir only a few days earlier, an elven city where he had lived his entire life, but no more. He was tired of elves and all of their stupid traditions, tired of them always trying to change him, but mostly he was tired of all the unfounded accusations against him simply because he tried to kiss a girl. Being a half-elf among elves wasn't easy. Although they developed physically at the same rate he did, mentally they were far behind in terms of maturity. He found the elves at the same age as him to be quite immature, and in turn they found him to be either boring or strange, and as such he didn't have many friends growing up. His mother died giving birth to him, so he grew up with his grandparents, both of whom were elves. They were never close. They merely tolerated his presence, and he was certain that they blamed him for his mother's death. "Her body broke giving birth to you," they told him on more than one occasion, hinting at his abnormal size from an elven point of view. Most of the elves in Garanthir looked down upon him. This became even worse when his human side started to show in the form of facial hair. It became clear to the other children just how different he was, and they started calling him half-born. Obviously not as a sign of affection. Initially he hated the name, but the more he realized just how different he was from them, the more he grew to like it, and eventually he embraced the name and used it in place of his elven name. One elven girl, Elmira, seemed different than the rest, and she wasn't bothered by him being different, not even when he decided to grow a beard. She said his stumpy black beard complemented his long black hair. The two of them were very close and spent a lot of time together, mostly playing games, practicing archery, and climbing trees. About a week ago, on the evening of his 20th birthday, he met up with Elmira, as they so often did, and this time she brought him a present. She had never given him a present before, and in the heat of the moment he misinterpreted her feelings of friendship as being romantic in nature and tried to kiss her. Elmira was shocked, started crying, and yelled for help. The situation escalated quickly. The city guards were summoned, and Elmira's parents accused him of trying to rape her. When an elf is 20 years old, they may look like a young adult, but mentally they are still very much like children. Her parents demanded that he be thrown in jail, but since he wasn't considered an adult by elven standards, it didn't happen. That didn't stop the accusations and rumors about him, however, and since he found no support from his grandparents, he decided to leave. Halfborn shook his head in an attempt to shake off the thoughts, and turned the impaled rabbit over the fire. His thoughts kept distracting him, and maybe that was why he didn't hear the footsteps behind him, until it was too late. Something sharp pressed against his throat. "Sorry, give me your food. Now," said a voice behind him. It was stuttering and stumbling over each word. The hand holding the knife was trembling. Although the voice didn't sound very confident, Halfborn knew that a nervous person could act unpredictably, so he did his best to remain as calm as possible, suppressing the anger that grew inside him. "Take whatever you need. I don't mind sharing, as long as you take that knife away from my throat," Halfborn said. "How can I trust you won't attack me?" said the voice. My bow is on the other side of the campfire, and you can remove my sword from my sheath yourself. There were a few seconds of silence until the person pulled the sword out of the sheath and tossed it aside. Slowly the knife got removed from his throat. Halfborn gently rubbed his throat while pointing towards the campfire with his other hand. Take a seat and help yourself to some rabbit. There's water in the water skin over there. A young human boy walked carefully past him, still holding up the knife. He had a crossbow strapped on his back. If this is a trick, then I'll kill you, said the boy. He looked around nervously, as if expecting someone to jump out of the shadows. The boy approached the campfire and took the impaled rabbit off the fire and started eating from it, as if he hadn't eaten for days. After the boy had taken a few bites, Halfborn slowly leaned towards the campfire. Now that you are eating my rabbit, would you mind telling me your name? Halfborn placed a hand on his chest and added, You can call me Halfborn. The boy looked at him and blushed. I'm sorry. We can share if you like. The boy broke off a meaty leg and threw it to Halfborn. Surprised, Halfborn picked up the leg and took a bite, his anger slowly dissipating for each bite he took. This boy was a peculiar fellow. They shared the rabbit in silence. When there was nothing left, the boy replied, You can call me Thorn. Halfborn nodded. Next time you rob someone, try using the crossbow. Then you don't need to get close. Thorn laughed nervously. I ran out of bolts. I lost the last one trying to get dinner. Halfborn started laughing with them. Their conversation continued, and as the night went by, they both started to relax and realized that they had a lot in common. They both ran away from home. Thorn ran away from his father, a traveling merchant. He didn't say much about why he left, just that his father was a very strict man and didn't treat him right. None of them had any definite goal or idea of where to go, so they eventually decided to travel together. They went north along the eastern edge of the Emerald Forest, spending time foraging and hunting small game, as they were not in any hurry to go anywhere but away from home. Valuing their privacy, they always made sure to camp inside the forest to avoid attracting unwanted visitors from the road to the east. A couple of months went by exploring the eastern part of the forest. One night after setting up camp, Halfborn was fletching a bolt for the crossbow, while Thorn practiced arming it. He had his foot inside the prod of the crossbow while pulling the string upwards with both hands. After a lot of effort, he managed to pull the string behind the trigger. Why do you call yourself Halfborn? Don't you have a real name? Asked Thorn, while opening and closing his hands to soothe the pain from the string. Halfborn snorted. I grew up among elves, and they don't like half-elves like me. Most of my childhood, they called me Halfborn, and eventually, I decided to keep the name. That way, they couldn't use it against me. Thorn nodded. What is your real name, then? Halfborn raised his gaze from the bolt and stared at Thorn for a while. If you promise never to use it, I will tell you the name that the elves gave me. But remember, it is not my name. Thorn put his hand over his heart. I swear that I will never use your elven name. Calathil Maldragalin, said Halfborn, directing his attention back to the bolt, although it was already finished. Thorn nodded. My full name is Hanthorn. Halfborn laughed. I kinda guessed that. He nodded towards the crossbow. It's carved into the stock. A loud snap from a nearby bush caught their attention. Before they had a chance to react, a loud roar came from the bush. Run! Yelled Halfborn. It's a bear! Run! They both ran as fast as they could. The bear was just behind Halfborn, so close that he could feel the dampness from its warm breath. Thorn had been standing a bit further away and had a short lead. Halfborn knew that it would be over in a few seconds if he didn't do something. Anything. In a split second, a plan formed in his head. He still had the bolt in his hand. "Throw the crossbow," he yelled to Thorn. What?" Thorn yelled back at him. "Toss the damn crossbow!" In one move, Thorn turned while still running, tossed the crossbow to Halfborn, turned back around, and continued running as if his life depended on it. Halfborn caught the crossbow by the stock, and to his relief, the trigger didn't release from the impact. He held up the crossbow and placed the bolt in front of the trigger. A simple task under normal circumstances, but quite the challenge while running. He managed to get the bolt in place and was just about to turn and shoot the bear when a thought struck him. The bear had ignored their campfire, which meant that something must have agitated it. It was highly unlikely that he would land a kill shot while running, and a bear this agitated would most likely not be stopped by a shot that didn't kill it immediately. Without hesitation, he pointed the crossbow at Thorn and pulled the trigger. The bolt penetrated him right in the lower back, and with a scream, he fell to the ground. Halfborn continued running and jumped over Thorn without looking at him. The bear let out a roar behind him, followed by a scream from Thorn that would plague him in his dreams for years to come. Halfborn had never heard a scream like that from any living being before. He kept running, trying to ignore what happened behind him, but the horrifying sounds provoked vivid images of the horrors Thorn must have gone through. The screams continued for what seemed like an eternity. The bear was in no hurry to kill its prey. Halfborn kept running until he hadn't heard the screams for a while, and collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. The next day he was plagued by guilt. It was never his intention to shoot Thorn, but in the heat of the moment it seemed like the only option to save himself. He spent the whole day looking for Thorn's corpse, or at least his remains, hoping that he could give him his final respects, but he never found him. Although they only knew each other for a couple of months, Thorn was the closest he'd ever had to a real friend. To honor his memory and never forget him, Halfborn chose to carry his name. To him, it felt like a way to share his experiences, his life with Thorn, which was the least he could do for the man who gave his life for him. From that day on, whenever someone asked for his name, he would proudly introduce himself as Hanthorn Halfborn.